Traveling the Vortex.
We've joined the Doctor as he travels the Vortex and come the long way around to episode 257. I don't know about you guys, but I don't have a power complex about flowers. Maybe that's why I'm not a very good gardener. I'm Keith.
I'm Sean.
I'm Glenn.
How are you guys?
Well,
it's easy to be a gardener these days because everything's dead because it's winter.
Did you see my empty garden?
My indoor plants, however, are not faring so well.
We should put them outside. Let them get some fresh air.
Yeah, that's a good idea. The frost would probably really help them out.
That's how I garden.
what's in the news?
Nothing.
No news this week. No news that we felt worthy enough to talk about on the show anyway.
As per kind of usual, as you end near the end of the season, the news starts dwindling less and less.
We could talk about the Omni rumor.
There's no news about the Omni Room.
No, but we could just talk about it. No. I know how you love talking about it, Glenn.
Well, then let's talk about it when it actually has some substance to it.
Do we want to talk about
2 years now, by the way.
When season 10 is going to come down?
When season 10 is going to come
down?
Yeah.
Should we talk about the release date for that?
Oh, no.
Because they haven't announced it.
Well, we could talk about it. We're feeding the dragon, my friends.
It'll be in 2016.
Well, I'm going to say Easter Saturday.
It's always Easter Saturday.
It's always Easter Saturday. Just for the record, it will not be Easter Saturday this year. But that's what we're going to call it.
So should we move on to our legacy, Doctor Who legacy
tip of the week?
Our tip of the week this week is to subscribe to this newsletter. Because you get some really great information of updates and what's going on with the game that way.
Most definitely, if you're not subscribing to that newsletter, definitely do, because there's a load of information on a weekly basis. It comes out on Thursday, is that right?
Usually Thursdays, yeah.
And it usually has the whatever special codes you can get and what's coming up and where you can find interviews from Lee and Sue.
And where they're going to be at different conventions.
Where they're going to be, yep. And they always talk about what they'll be talking about on Twitch if they happen to be on with the Adipose that week, and lots of good stuff in there. So, and Keith must not have read his newsletter this week because he was surprised.
I missed a little. I knew
there was an announcement in it.
Second anniversary levels were coming. I did not realize Harry Sullivan was part of those.
Was that in the newsletter? Or did I get an added thing? Because I got it in an email. I was thinking it was a newsletter, but now that I think about it, I think I saw it came out on Saturday in my email. So.
Oh, I must have missed that email somehow. Well, I have made great strides in my Doctor Who Legacy playing.
Ooh, how you doing?
I am done.
Done? Finished?
All
Complete?
the levels are done.
Oh, wow. All the chapters?
All the chapters are done.
All the expert levels?
No, okay. All the chapters. Okay. All the chapters are done.
All of the Sonic adventures?
No, because I still haven't unlocked that.
All of the kids.
All my chapters are done. Considering I was stuck so far behind on the chapters for so long,
that's a monumental task.
I still have lots of characters still to go unlock too.
So you'll have to go back into the chapters now.
Yeah, that's what I've been working on. I still have some Chapter 3 characters to drop.
Still, that's pretty dang good.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
I'm quite proud of myself that I'm up to date.
Does it feel good to be playing again?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I've really enjoyed playing it.
You feel good surpassing Sean now?
Yes. I'm back ahead of Sean.
Where are you at?
I'm done with all the chapter levels.
Oh, you are ahead of me. You know what I did this week?
I reached the end. I was like, what? That's it? I was kind of surprised.
You know what I did this week on Legacy? I got my time crystals. Because after I gave you the hint about be sure to log in, I kept missing it. And I got a whole bunch of red ones day after day after day after day because I was just missing it by minutes and seconds and But I got my time crystals this week, so I feel like I'm gearing up for something big.
Crystals?
Well, you get two.
Two?
Yeah.
Oh, he made it sound like he got like 50 crystals or something. You got two?
The daily allowance they give you at the end of the
5 days? You get for the end of the 5 days?
That's a big deal for him.
It is after this dry spell because I keep
him on
missing.
The back for getting all the way through a week. My goodness.
That's a big deal. After I was on top of it, I've got 50 of them stored up, and then I
completely nullified your tip of the week.
That enforces my tip of the week because I said you need to make sure to check in, and then I screwed it up.
Now you have accomplished that. You're okay.
See,
I was finally following through on his tip.
Well, I was following it through awesomely, and then I gave you the tip.
Since he gave that tip, I think I've gotten 8 or 9 crystals.
I know. I've gotten
10 apparently if it's 2 crystals a week.
I've got 5,000 red ones if anybody needs it. But hey, Legacy, when are we going to be able to gift stuff to people? That's what I want.
That's not a bad.
I want to be able to
bad addition. That'd be cool.
Get a friend and say, okay, I'll give you you can have some of my black ones, and I'll take some of your green ones or whatnot.
Well, that's your Doctor Who Legacy
tip of the week.
Let's move on to feedback. Our first bit of feedback, as I'm trying to pull it up, comes from Ben. Ben writes, this came in last week, but on the Monday after the episode came out. So
he almost made the deadline.
He almost made the deadline. Hey guys, hope this didn't mix the cutoff for this week's feedback. So this will sound out of date in context. Anyhow, I just want to say that I loved Face the Raven. That's the first time in a long time I've been able to say that about a Moffat-era episode. My one and only criticism of the episode would be that despite asking herself to be brave, Clara still screamed as the shades took her. It was most likely involuntary, though. Beyond that, I thought this was a fantastic episode. It even had the Jadoon in it. They're my favorite monster. Beyond that, I finished Lost Stars, which is a Star Wars novel about 2 characters leading up to Episode 7. Quite like this story. As Beast of Fang Rock has yet to reach my postbox, I've started a Song of Ice and Fire prequel novel, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. This book is okay so far. It's not gripping me by any means. It isn't awful, though. It adds some insight into the series proper. Maester Aemon is even mentioned. Anyhow, I'm hoping to finish that soon, and if the 7 gods be with me, it will coincide with Beast of Fang Rock arriving. That's it for now. Hope this finds you all well. Take care, Ben.
I'm glad you finished that sentence, Ben, because the way I started reading his feedback was, as Beast of Fang Rock has yet to reach my postbox, I've decided to read the Song of Fire and Ice. And I went, what? You're never going to get through that before it's the prequel novel, which I'm sure is...
It's a novella.
Actually. Probably a little shorter. Like, I had some extra time today, so I figured I'd start War and Peace. What?
And his copy of Beast should be arriving Monday, so he'll be able to pick that up. And unfortunately, it'll arrive for him on the 30th.
Today.
Technically, yes. But the thread is always open for I think at least a month after the book close. The month of the book of the month is over. At least, at the very least, 15 days. So there's plenty of time to get your thoughts in on it, Ben. He did send in some follow-up feedback saying, quick feedback for Heaven Sent. I won't say that it wowed me, but I enjoyed it. I was not, however, thrilled with the Doctor's revelation that he's the hybrid. I'm hoping that they don't bring up that half-human garbage. I've never been a fan of that theory. I'm anxious to watch next week's finale, though, so this week's episode did its job nicely. Take care, guys. Ben.
Oh, we have stuff to talk about.
Well, shall we move on to our review of Heaven Sent?
Before we do that, let's go ahead and mention that, because she posted it this week. I think we have mentioned it before, but the book of the month for the Doctor Who book club, Traveling the Vortex, will be Mutually Assured Domination. So you can be sure to get that read and get your discussions in for that. That'll be this month, and then we will do our spoiler-free review of that coming up soon on
our spoiler-filled.
Our spoiler-filled. Yes, thank you, Keith. Spoiler-filled review of that on the show in probably a couple months.
And if anybody's going through some Lethbridge Stewart fatigue, the January book will be back to a poll option.
Yeah.
So
because
you will get to have say again.
The next book won't be released until the spring.
Yes. All right. Heaven sent. Trapped in a world unlike any other he has seen, the Doctor faces the greatest challenge of his many lives. One final test, and he must face it alone. Pursued by the fearsome creature known only as the Veil, he must attempt the impossible. If he makes it through, Gallifrey is waiting.
I would dump Dun Dun, but I'm afraid that I would ruin some equipment here because
You
it
would break
be
the microphones.
louder than any Dun 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 that I have ever done for any review that we have done since we started on this show. So I am going to refrain and just say with that statement that the Dun 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 would be so loud, you guys, my ears would pop out because of my headphones and would just short out the mics and everything. So let's just have that suffice as my
wake
Dun
up
Dun
Mel.
Dun. Wake up Mel, probably the neighbor. We are in an adjoining house here, maybe even across the street. I mean,
wow.
That would be my Dun Dun Dun. So
Might cause some people to dive behind potted plants
yes,
at the mall.
yes, if they're listening closely to their earphones. I don't want
Probably
to
as
break
loud as
anybody's
Chrissy's
eardrums.
squee when they announced
Could
Peter Davison
probably that much. So
Wow.
So if you guys feel the need to do a Dun Dun Dun, go right ahead.
No, I think you may have summed that up far better than I debated how I was going to dun this, and maybe I was actually thinking of bringing back the golden bow tie.
This gets that level of Dun 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 and the gold.
Yeah. This, for me, and this is difficult because I think there's an asterisk next to it. This may just be the greatest episode of Doctor Who ever, even though it's not an episode of Doctor Who. That's the asterisk.
I'm conflicted about how I feel about it. I absolutely enjoyed the ride 100%. But part of me feels that it's not done yet because I want to see the resolution for next week. Because all of this was just a vehicle to get him to the destination.
Which simply is why I think it can be rated on its own. Because while I still feel like we're in the middle of a 3-part episode or a 3-part story,
it stands.
It stands completely alone. Completely alone. Now, that's not to say there isn't a mystery still hanging over this. Some of the things I think are who necessarily trapped him there.
Yeah.
Was it him? Was it the Time Lords? Was it a Shielder? I'm not sure we know for sure. Was it Missy?
I don't think we know.
I'm not sure we know yet. I'm not sure we know that yet. And the mystery of perhaps, what was the other thing? Well, something as simple as and pedantic as the clothes.
See, I don't think you need that. We don't know what happened the first go-around.
Yeah.
Obviously, this was a much later go-around.
Or the second, or the third.
Yeah, I mean...
Well, this was the 7,000th-ish go-around. We know that. If that is established.
So
twice in the episode. Once he says, if I didn't know better, I think... it feels like I've time traveled 7,000 years. And then at the end, or near the end, when he's figuring it out, he says, this is the 7,000th time. So.
Yeah. But we don't know what happened, so it doesn't create a problem for me.
It doesn't. So he probably was naked the whole first time.
Why not?
Yeah. That's the only explanation.
He's there alone, besides for this creature. I mean...
Only explanation I could come up with.
That's probably when it nabbed him.
It might have nabbed him early there.
Also,
do you guys
who put the monocle on the mantle originally?
Well, I chalk that up to whoever orchestrated the entire thing.
Okay. And the other one was that I thought was glaringly obvious.
Did you guys pick up that it was going to be like I figure it was some sort of loop or something from the very beginning? Because I thought that instantly from the opening pre-credit sequence.
I did.
As soon as I saw that hand grab it and then fall and disappear, I thought, it's a loop.
I got it. I didn't. I bought it. Hook, line, and sinker. I thought that was whoever had brought him there.
And then I got so sucked into it, I was still surprised.
Yeah. No,
because I was so engrossed. I was like, "Oh yeah, I forgot I thought about that."
Not at all. In fact, when it's revealed, I was like,
I did. Yeah, I did not think it was a loop
jaw on the floor.
until we went through the first loop. Then, as he was
I
explaining
didn't
what was
realize
going
the
on,
scope
I
of
went,
the loop either.
"Oh my God, it's a loop," and that's how everything got there. And I mean, okay, I figured like the clothes that he left for himself and the putting things back. It was like, okay, obviously we know that we're going to get into some sort of timey-wiminess, but not to the extent that it was until they actually revealed it was a loop. I did,
Interestingly enough, it wasn't timey-wimey.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was just repeated. I did,
What
however,
a cool use for the teleport too.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Stephen Moffat, for pulling a Star Trek. We're going to go to the transporter, and so there's a copy of us in the pattern buffer. It's like, yes! Yeah. I was like...
Well, the
yes!
the explanation was fantastic comparing it to a 3D printer.
Yeah.
I went, wow! My kids can grasp that. And they did.
I did, however, know rather early on that he was in his confession dial.
You did.
I did.
I did not pick that up. I kind of wondered if the
I didn't
skulls
either.
were either people that have died in his wake or him.
That's what I thought, was that all of the skulls were people that he was responsible for their death.
I thought that at first, and then as we went further on, when he found the skull with the hook plugged in, I started thinking, maybe.
when he was digging, and the thing loomed into the... digging his own grave, literally almost. When it loomed into the thing, he says, "You want a confession?" I went, "He's in his confession now." That's why everything looks clock oriented.
I thought,
and
okay, let me say this.
I thought the gears made me think of the Open.
Let me say this, is I didn't expect he was in the confession dial, but I thought the confession dial was linked when he said, "You want my confession?"
I knew he was inside of it, because that's it was a one-way teleport and got him in there, and that's why the stars didn't make sense. Everything was okay, cool. But no, it still surpassed even that. Okay.
I think the other thing that I think is left open that I think will be answered next week is he hands the confession dial to a shielder.
Yeah.
But when he comes out, he's holding the confession dial. He's got it. It drops. It's there.
Yeah.
So
that's what.
Yeah. So I think that that little bridge has to be kind of answered.
See, I'm still almost.
I mean, obviously, Schilder's in the episode because he was in the next time on, and it appears that she may be at on Gallifrey as well. So,
oh yeah, she was.
She was.
Yeah,
she's the one talking
yeah,
to
yeah.
the head of the Sisterhood of Karn. I can never remember the lady's name, but
yeah, I can never pronounce her name.
yeah, she's having that discussion with her.
Yeah, that's right. See, part of me still thinks that we're going to go full circle, and that we'll discover for the Doctor. Either this is directly on the heels of the Davros story, or even set before, and then we're going to go through that with Clara. That's why he's so morose about her death throughout the whole season, is because he's actually already lived it. I'm still thinking that, and that's why the confession dial is such a big part of the entire thing.
You mean the crux of the season will have taken place?
Yeah. So
After he goes to Gallifrey?
yeah.
Okay. Because he literally did just leave Clara dying.
Yeah.
And then got here.
After the finale.
It was just a gateway.
Yeah, after Hellbent,
So
it would wound up being a big loop back
Gotcha.
to the beginning
Gotcha.
of the season. That we've been seeing it through almost Clara's perspective more than
yeah.
the Doctor's perspective.
Which is very
or
Stephen
Doctor's
Moffat.
order. Yeah. Because there hasn't been a whole lot of timey-wiminess in this season enough.
And we'll get a reminder of that at Christmas when River shows back up.
Yeah.
So, where to start? Capaldi. I think everybody, all the reviews that I've seen, has kind of just been.
I don't know if any other Doctor could have carried the episode as well as he did.
No. You couldn't have done this with David Tennant or Matt Smith at all. I don't think you could have done it with Christopher Eccleston. He was just a different type of Doctor. No, I
only Doctor that could have come close that possibly would be Tom Baker.
No, I
Because
disagree.
he talked to himself enough as it was.
That aspect of it,
here's
yes.
the
That
thing.
aspect,
This
but
is
the
the other
storytelling.
This is the other nice thing about this episode.
Sylvester McCoy,
is
I could have seen.
I
maybe.
saw in the 12th Doctor in this episode, I saw shades of the 7th Doctor. I saw shades of the 4th Doctor. I saw shades of the 3rd Doctor. Even saw a glimpse of the 2nd Doctor. There was various parts in the episode, especially when he's in the garden and he's doing this with his hands. It was very,
yeah.
and he's afraid. He's got that kind of fearful. He was very second Doctor there. And I thought, wow, there's like 4 doctors that he's and I'm not saying he was portraying that. There was shades or glimpses of those doctors in this episode. It was just astounding. It was just, wow.
Yeah. Just mesmerizing from the get-go. And if you're not a Peter Capaldi fan at this point, how could you not be? This is kids, we're going to go to Acting 101. this is how you win a BAFTA. It's this. If you weren't convinced by the war speech, here's this. Here's Exhibit B.
And I think I have decided, even with Sleep No More in it, I have decided that this is my favorite season, at the very least, since the show started again in 2005. This is my favorite season. I think
been such
it
a
has been a solid,
season.
Strong. Just Sleep No More had some problems with it, but just overall, this has been such a solid, good performance. This is the 12th Doctor that I expected and was so excited for when they announced Peter Capaldi. I kept thinking he's got to get to this level. Now, I didn't expect this from him, don't get me wrong, but this is what I had hoped for.
Oh, I did. I knew he was going to.
This is what I had hoped for. And, well, I think we saw shades and glimpses of that in Series 8. Part of that was because, they were establishing him, and he's finding his feet, and all of the work up to
He really had to grow to this point.
Yeah, he had to grow to this point. But this season is just so good. And Peter Capaldi is probably my favorite Doctor now. Yep.
Even above Tom.
At least tied. The thing is, Tom is my Doctor because I started with Tom, so he's got that. But Peter Capaldi is just, oh my gosh.
So the way it was shot, first of all, brilliant directing. Rachel Taylor did just an amazing job of pulling this off. But I was really, I was almost worried because we knew this was going to be a gimmick going into it. That it's
one-hander is what they call it.
The Doctor Only episode. It's not Doctor Heavy. It's not Doctor Light. It's Doctor Only. And so when we first
the veil's there.
Yeah, when we first zap into the tower,
and there's a child at the end.
And
there was Clara.
Yeah. I think that was still the Doctor, though.
Well, technically, yeah, but acting-wise,
yeah. Okay, I'll give you that.
He's talking gimmick. He's not talking story.
I'm talking the gimmick, and I was a little worried that okay, we're gonna do a, and then it just immediately wasn't. It just immediately was like, no, this is something different. And I don't know what I expected. I wasn't prepared for what I got because it was one part this very, very legitimately scary episode when the things
just constantly coming,
and what a way to put a lurching monster to phenomenal effect. That slow lumbering zombie kind
through
of
corridors,
yeah. But doing that, but when it was coming from the door to the garden outside, and it was just all of a sudden there, and the only hint that you had were the flies all of a sudden started to show up, and it was just
so cool.
Just the heart rate started going the whole
and
time.
The fact that you never really got a good look at him, other than the hands,
that was awesome.
Well, you don't need a good look.
I love the explanation of the fact that when he was a child, he saw an old woman in a veil, but it was so hot outside that the flies came.
Yeah.
And that fear stuck with him. And that would ultimately is what the fear was in this. I loved that.
For somebody else, it would have been something else.
Yeah, absolutely.
I loved. All of that was just
even,
top drawer.
even though it was very Sherlock, I loved the Mind Palace. It makes so much sense for the Doctor to work out all these things while in his mind, being in his console room, trying to impress whatever companion it is, not just Clara. Any companion.
I will be honest. The first time he did that, and he says, "Picture yourself in a room. I like to envision myself in the TARDIS," and I went, "Moffat, you're cheating. You're pulling the memory palace. That's a Sherlock thing, not a Doctor thing. This isn't going to work." And by God, it worked.
It really did.
It worked so well. And again, I don't know that it would have worked with any other Doctor. But all of the little descriptions that we've gotten with Missy's talking to Clara about, he always knows that he's going to win. He's always thinking ahead
that
of it.
was a nice time.
And to then turn down and break it down for us and let us in on the process was just really cool.
And it was so reminiscent of that beginning sequence of Listen that we all enjoyed so much.
Yep.
Of the Doctor and his TARDIS just talking to no one.
Yep.
Which completely, in fact, qualifies and justifies that element of that episode. That's what he was doing. That and the episode of where he was talking about the bootstrap paradox. We were trying to figure out who he was explaining that to. He was in his little closet. Yeah. That's what it was. That's ultimately what it was.
I love I personally would like to have the Doctor monologue to himself more often. Not necessarily for a whole episode, but if you wanted to have him just talk to the camera to set up an episode or to do something, I'd just say, yeah, okay.
What was the line when he goes to the door and he's talking about when he was young, he was telepathic, and he's trying to get the door to unlock, and the door does unlock, and he opens it up, and the corridor dead ends, and he says something about the corridors come to an end, sort of a wrap up to life or something. That he says it. So I can't remember exactly who says it, but I thought that was perfectly said.
Yeah,
because of the idea of running through corridors, and he's now run down his last corridor. I just thought, wow.
Just the fact that he was going to cheat death one more time, and he's going to get that door to open with an impossible trick, and then he opens it, and it's a brick wall. And the realization that, okay, maybe this is it. Maybe this is the end. Okay, just stunning. The dialogue in this was so good when the Doctor talks about, I don't want to die, I'm afraid to die.
To open the door.
Yes, I'm afraid to die, and his admissions of truth, and the was that why we always look into the eye sockets of skulls?
Yeah,
just those little moments that
Well, I think the confessions too, which I was maybe a bit concerned that we were going to get the Doctor's name too, but when he talks about, I didn't leave Gallifrey because I was bored. I lied. It was because I was scared. And I thought, oh wow, that so changes the whole mythos of the, why he left Gallifrey, because he has said in the past that he was bored. He's also said in the past he was running. We've had those explanations for why he left Gallifrey. The other thing that I thought was really, really, really cool was, and it's just gone away. Was the at the end where he's talking about people always have it wrong about Time Lords, that when we die, we die slowly. It takes a while. And he said that's why we go off to be alone, and he's going
with our own people.
And the thing that and they don't bury them right away. And I thought, you completely fixed
the end of
time for me.
I thought the exact same thing while watching.
No wonder he was able to go on a journey of the past and see all and
fight off
say goodbye to all because of the fact that
it takes forever to die.
It just takes not forever, but it takes a long time to die, and so it completely justified something that Russell T. Davis had put in effect that always bugged me, and I'm fine with that.
Stephen Moffat is the ultimate retconner.
He just completely retconned that problem.
Since we're near the end, I also love the idea of, regardless of how you feel about the Doctor being the hybrid, the idea that the hybrid would be half Dalek always stuck in my craw a little bit. And his explanation totally it gives me why it's stuck in my craw, is because no Dalek would ever let that happen.
Yeah.
As soon as he said it, I went,
well,
duh! Why didn't we think of that?
Yeah.
Evolution of the Daleks, we saw the exact same thing. That's why.
Yep.
So
it's not how the Daleks operate.
Nick Walters, who wrote Mutually Assured Domination, posted on his Facebook page and I'm going to sound I'll bleep the expletive. But so in that final line in last night's Doctor Who, spoilers, you've been warned. This is him typing on his Facebook page. Quote, "The hybrid is me," says the Doctor. Or did he say, "The hybrid is me," with a capital M?
Oh.
Stephen Moffat, you're a clever, evil, clever expletive. And I read that and went,
I never thought
now,
of that.
I don't think that's the way it's going to go, but she's in the preview.
Something
so
in the next show, or the next time on, that made me think that the hybrid is indeed the Doctor. There's some line that was dropped in there, because I thought the same thing. I thought, well, Shielder went by me, and it could be a clever ruse. But then there's something in the next time that affirms the fact that it is the Doctor, and I can't remember for the life. I've even watched this silly thing out through twice now, with the next time on both times that I watched it, and I can't remember what the line is. But there's a line that's dropped that almost affirms that it is the Doctor. Now, that being said,
That could be clever editing.
that being said, I so want him to be human. I'm sorry. I'm going against probably about 89% of Doctor Who fandom out there. I don't care if he's half human. I think that's a wonderful idea, and that would completely retcon that one line in
Well, not
Doctor
just
Who
the one
movie.
line, it's the partial end of the movie, too, where the humans have to look in the Eye of Harmony.
Right, yeah, exactly.
And after that,
I mean, Big Finish
revelation-
has gone through great lengths to rectify that with Evelyn as well. When what was the story that the Dalek story where she is the key to open it so that the Daleks
something
can't get
element.
in.
Apocalypse.
Apocalypse element, yeah. That she happens to be the reason why that protocol was put into the Eye of Harmony.
and all fine and dandy, ways of let's do this. And
sorry, man, I want it to be half human. I want it to be.
let's do this, and we'll make it fit. What better way to just sit down and go,
Nope, it's true.
canon?
Yes.
Deal with it.
not
Yes,
debate
deal
it.
with it. Just deal with it. You 89% of Who fans that don't like that, tough.
And
We don't know that we're going to get that, but
in the mythology of the hybrid, it
No,
also
I'm
makes
not
sense.
the only one in the 89.
I'd be okay with
on
that.
the 21%, right?
No,
yeah.
no.
Or 19%, I suppose, if I'm saying 81.
If he is though, it makes sense within the hybrid mythology, because the humans are such warriors, are so war always. That's the constant of humanity is war.
Billy asked. He says, "It's supposed to be from two warrior races, though, right?" He says, "Humans aren't." And I'm like, "No, but we're very warlike." I mean,
Look at the war games. That's the whole example, the whole reason.
Well, I think if you put us on if there's a galactic scale chart somewhere, that,
we just haven't evolved enough to become.
there's probably Santarans and this and this and this. I would like to think that maybe we ranked slightly above Quarks on that scale, but we're not in the upper echelons. We're probably not even in the top 500.
Well, see, I disagree
But
because
just the fact that we're very warlike.
I disagree with that. I think that if you put it based on, I think Keith was trying to go down this road here. If you put it on the fact that humans have not moved out into the universe until much later than everybody else had. I mean, they do obviously in the future. We know that.
Yeah.
So if you take all of the wars that have been fought on Earth, that's what everything always boils down to in history is war. It's always war. So we are very warlike. We're just in this microcosm for such a long time.
We're just stuck
And
on
it's
our
not-
own planet.
Yeah, it's not until later that we branch out or move out. So, and the Doctor obviously likes to stay around. I mean, we see very little future Earth. We see very little. Well, in the classic series, we get a lot of future Earth, but the Doctor
it's still very
tends
warlike.
to very much just kind of stay around a certain time frame,
Especially
as
in the
far
new
as
series.
Earth goes. And so I think that it does apply. And I think if you were to give us that, I don't want to say per capita, but that same idea that based on our little microcosm, yeah, we are very warlike. And maybe even if we were able to branch out like the Sontarans or the Quarks or the Dominators or anybody, I think that we certainly would be in those upper echelons as well.
Well, and if you think back, a Time Lord, we assume the Master, came to Earth, kidnapped different people, different warriors of different eras to find the perfect batch to go and do more wars. I mean, the whole purpose of the war games was finding the perfect warriors on Earth because we are such a warrior race.
Yeah.
I think it totally makes sense.
I can buy
And the
it.
show likes to explore these human elements of the seedier side of humanity, and that is a seedier side.
Yeah.
Very true.
Well, depends on your point of view.
It's true.
I think it's seedy, but
Some others don't.
well, I mean, certainly when we had empires that were taking over great chunks of land in the ancient times, they were certainly thought they were in the right. So, I mean,
yeah.
that's for the better of the empire. So that's to them, it's good. So it depends on your perspective too.
Thank you, Obi-Wan.
From a certain point of view.
So when we got to room 12 and got into the anteroom and the gigantic wall of not diamond,
Harder than diamond.
and it said home.
400 times harder than that.
Am I the only one that saw home?
No,
I
it
saw
was
home.
It was-
I looked
okay.
the second time to make sure, and it's there. Yeah.
And he makes the comment, the TARDIS right on the other side, obviously. I'm
Yep.
not gonna And did anybody buy that line, or
Yep.
did we?
Nope.
I did not buy it, but then I had the synopsis.
I feel kind of dumb because I'm going. Yeah. See, I didn't know that I didn't have the synopsis to benefit me. I feel
And
kind
shame
of
on you for posting that synopsis Radio Times.
I did not fall for the fact that he was in the confession disc dial. I didn't see a lot of this stuff coming, and I did not think. When he said, "Oh, the TARDIS right on the other side," I thought, "Oh, that's how he's going to get through to the TARDIS." Nope, I totally bought it. Totally bought it. Completely hook, line, sinker. So when he stepped through into Gallifrey, I went, "Oh!" And I am so glad that I didn't know. I thought you guys put Arc of Infinity on the schedule because of Omega. I really did, because you guys had even talked about
I'm glad
doing
we didn't
Three
spoil it
Doctors
for
at
him.
one time, or at least you led me to believe that Three Doctors was the other option. And now that I know that it was probably Deadly Assassin.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, which you guys were
We
very
also
coy about
discussed
that. So.
Invasion of Time, but that was too long.
Oh, you did, yeah. I do remember that. So, when he stepped through and it was Gallifrey, I went.
When did you know?
When he stepped through,
When it was the
panned
desert?
around.
No,
and
when
the
they
kid showed
pan-
up,
well,
or was it when the pan?
when he stepped through and I saw the landscaping, and I remembered home. That's at the point that I got really super suspicious, and it was confirmed when it panned over and there was the Citadel, or the city. So yeah, that was. Yep, that was a finally. And Moffat could not have. That was my other problem. Is this whole time that Gallifrey's been in this pocket universe has been placed somewhere we don't know where it's at. The Doctor doesn't know where it's at, and all this time I keep thinking you can't make it too easy to get to. You can't make it too easy to get to. So it can't be anytime soon that we get to it, or it'll feel like a cheat. It'll feel too easy. And so if you do it at the end of this season, that's too soon. That's way too soon. You won't have made it difficult enough. Nope. This made it plenty difficult to get to and satisfied that 100% for me. When this was the way that he had to get to Gallifrey, I went, that is genius. That is so perfect. That satisfies my trepidation that you can't get there too soon, because, yes, we do get there too soon, and you made it just as difficult as it needed to be. Oh, that's so good. Sorry.
Had it not been 2 billion years inside the confession dial, it might have felt a little cheated.
When he starts
Well,
hitting
the other
wall,
thing is 2 billion years is relative. Or 4 billion years is 2. Well, I thought he said 2 the last time.
I thought he
but
said 2
yeah.
also.
I think it's 4.
But anyway,
Billions of
billions
years.
of years.
And it doesn't add any
Billions and
age.
billions.
It's relative because it's only relative to him. So we're talking about Time Lords. It's not like they were waiting around for 2 billion years for him
Right.
to get there.
No, and it's not like
he
he's-
left Earth in present day.
And he's
So-
not 2 billion years old either.
Exactly. And we're talking about Time Lords here as well. I mean, they're basically masters of time. They live in sort of an infinite bubble anyway,
it's
just
gonna be-
in their own society.
I think it's going to be one of those things where
You could hop in a TARDIS from the point that he got out and go anywhere in time. That was
yeah.
Holly's problem. Was she's like, so this is like 2 billion years in the future. I said, well, not necessarily, because it's only relative to the doctor. It's only relative to the confession doctor.
From a linear timeline standpoint, what you would look at is that he left in the teleport at the end of the last episode, arrived on the last loop, because as far as that version of him knows, that's it. And then spends 82 hours or however long he said he had in the castle that he could, run around. That was how long the loop was.
I get the impression he spent much more time while he was in each incarnation of himself. The reason being is because we saw everything linearly until he figured it out. And he had done an hour of digging, nearly. He thought it was going to be an hour. He thought he had an hour. He was caught by surprise, so it wasn't quite an hour. And then he did the tap, tap, tap thing.
To keep track of.
And he figured out that one was 51 or 58 minutes, 57 minutes, something like that. And then he ran to another room and he tapped, 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 and that was the 83. So he figured that was the only thing that the 83 minutes had to do was that was the furthest he could get away from it, and that was the most amount of time he could have away from it. So that in itself is probably 4 days there. So I mean,
it's still
can't.
Days. It's not even years.
But you can't
Yeah.
say.
No.
It definitely wasn't years. No, it definitely wasn't years.
I think the total
Everything
length
probably
of time
in a week,
from going to this room
Yeah.
to this room to this room to this room, spending
Maybe
an hour
longer.
digging, running from one end of the castle to the other, and getting downstairs. I would say that total length of time. I would think it's in hours. It's
in hours.
For him relatively.
Could have been a week, but
And then he busts through the wall. Now, I think there will be some part of him that is aware he spent
he figured it out.
4 billion.
Why else would he punch that
Well,
wall?
here's the other
last
thing
time?
that you have to clue into. The last time that he goes to his head when he's figuring out what's going on, you have to clue into the fact that he's telling Clara that he remembers now. He remembers everything.
Mm-hmm.
He remembers it. So every time he got to that point, he remembers everything. And so I think even stepping through after he finally got through, he remembers each time.
Yeah.
Now, did it have the same physical effect on him as if he had been there for 2 billion years? Not necessarily. But in some sort of mental infinity ideal, he does sense that amount of time. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So,
like Rory remembering that he was around for 2,000 years,
exactly.
but not really having been
Exactly.
around.
Because so many of those
that's an
instances,
excellent example, Sean.
so many of those instances wouldn't be varied at all.
Right.
Right.
So it wouldn't have that much of an impact mentally, just other than knowing he went through all of that so many times. Yeah.
Interesting side note. I read a little blurb on the special effects when they did a life mold of Capaldi for the Under the Lake episode, so that they could do the prosthetic for the ghost and have him facing off against himself. So it was another actor wearing the thing in those scenes. Since they had that, they built the mold and then scaled backwards and worked their way down to what they thought his skull would look like. So that's actually a representation of his skull.
All of
That's
the
kinda
skulls.
cool.
All of the skulls.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. There's so much in this. The other thing that I noticed on the second time through, with something that sort of bothered me, is I wondered why there wasn't a groove the first time that we see that he figures it out. And if you go back and watch, that wall is not perfectly straight. It does buckle there. So the 7,000 times that he'd been doing it before, he had already started the process. And if you look real close, you'll see it's just a little ridge, which for 7,000 times it would just be a slight ridge.
Yeah.
So it's completely viable. And I saw that and I thought, okay, that was a very good bit of continuity there, making sure that it did have a little bit of a groove, because I would have had a little problem if that thing had been perfectly flat when he got there the 7,000th time.
Go ahead.
I also love the idea of incorporating Grimm's story about the
What a great
shepherd,
way to explain
the king
it.
and the shepherd was so cool, and how each time he got a little more of the story out, and then the punchline being that's an incredible amount of time, and then as he punches through, the only time he says is no, that's it's not incredible, that's a something bird, incredible bird or whatever. I think that's I can't remember exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Anyway, he gets to that final line. So I love the idea of, I think it's called the infinity question. I think is what it's commonly referred to. I don't know that that's what the passage is called, but And the idea that using the fact that as long as the length of time that it takes the bird to sharpen his beak and go completely through the mountain is only a second of infinity. I think such a great, nice way to kind of ground the idea of infinity. That was wow.
I saw some people online complaining that why didn't he go grab the shovel to hit the wall with instead of his fist to make it go by quicker.
By the time he gets there, he can't get back to the shovel.
Yeah, that's what I figured too.
Yeah, he can't. He can't get past. There's a one single hallway, and the veil is coming at him down the hall. There's no way to get the shovel.
Yeah.
And each time you only realize when you get to the wall what you have to do. And the other thing that I liked as well is it wasn't one punch each time.
No,
I counted it's 5 punches
at least.
And probably more so the further he got through the wall because of the fact that it takes longer for the veil to get to him. So I did appreciate the fact that every time that he goes through that, it's more punches each time as well. So.
When he first hit it, and
although not necessarily more punches. Well, yeah, it could be. Yeah, it still gives him enough length.
When he first gets down there and just hauls off and punches this wall, and you can tell it's just like, oh man, he just broke every bone in his hand or something. And then he did it again, and I went, what are you doing? Are you hoping that you're going to get that weird adrenaline rush and the superhuman strength, and it's just going to go, wow. Did you see a thing in a force field that's going to disintegrate? I can't believe, what is he doing? What is he doing? And then he died. Ish. And then crawled all the way back, and that's when the loop started, and I went, ugh. And then he went back to the wall. And he started beating on it again. And it was the second time through that I went, oh my God, it's the time lock. He is tunneling his way to Gallifrey. And I actually said that out loud. And Mel went, and I will tell you, right here, right now, and then when I watched it, I felt very justified in this is how I envision Gallifrey's laptop. It's like a big wall around the thing. And Glenn said,
tougher than
no, it isn't. I said, yes, it is.
I'll give you that one.
Easter Saturday.
I'll give you that one.
Why are you hitting that? Don't you have a tool somewhere in the coat that you could pull? I mean, he pulls out the specs and it tells him what it is, but that's about as far as they're good for, I guess.
I'm glad the specs couldn't do anything on it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I was kind of prepared for there to be I'm going to set these up in the corner and let them work the problem for the next billion years, and I'll shave some time off of this. Right. But, no, it's just brute force.
Yep.
Just.
Sometimes that's all it takes.
Well, and this kind of goes back to what we said last week that I said about, well, it was very noble of Clara to say, no, don't be angry. Do you have any idea how angry he is? I'm so excited.
Well, it's okay. He's had a 2 billion year buffer, though.
Oh, no.
He's got 2 billion years to get angrier.
That's exactly right.
He just climbs through a time lock with his bare hands.
But I think you can also forgive the fact that it's been 2 billion years for him. So he's allowed to be angry. He kept his promise for 2 billion years. That's pretty noble.
I shouldn't be. I should be very lamenting the death of the Doctor's character, and I am so excited to see him open a can of whoop butt next week. And I saw a little blurb with Stephen Moffat where he was kind of expounding on the quote, I think, that they used for the final episode that we didn't know what to do anything with is, what if you stripped everything from him and left him on his own and broke his heart? Where would he turn? And I kind of went, that doesn't tell me anything about this episode. Well, he went up
next week.
Yeah, right. Well, next week. So he went a little further with it and kind of explained that it's not just that he was abandoned and his best friend died and his heart's been broken. He's really, really pissed. And Moffat said this. He says, and he said he commented. He says, I cut a line. He says, I still think stupidly, where something was supposed to go down. The Doctor was going to make a bah, and somebody was supposed to say, you would never do that. And this other person would have replied, you never know someone until you've seen them at home. Huh. He says, I wish I hadn't cut that line. But he says, I did, so it's not there. But that line gives me chills. You're right, Stephen. You shouldn't have cut it. What a great... You never know somebody until you've seen them at home.
Yeah.
and we're going to get that next week, and I cannot wait. I'm scared to go back and watch it again.
I haven't rewatched it either.
I haven't yet.
It's better the second
Is
time.
it?
And even knowing what's going on now, it's nice to look at the pieces as you go along now. And you realize that, okay, the revelation isn't, because I'm one of those people that if it's one of those kind of the Sixth Sense, once that's revealed, it ruins everything for me. Of course, we went back and watched that with Caitlin, and it was, I looked at it with a whole different set of eyes. To be quite honest, when we first watched this episode, I uneasily enjoyed it. I thought, I'm not quite sure what I think about this. It's good. It's really intense. And then after it's reveals itself and it's over, it suddenly washed over that it was just the greatest episode ever. And so I thought now I'm excited to go back and watch it. And then I thought, well, maybe I'm not. And I actually held off until about an hour before I came over here. And I thought, no, I'm going to watch it again because I want to. I don't usually like to watch them twice because I like to come and give a fresh opinion of having only seen it the once. But I felt like this one was kind of the exception because you can go back into this now knowing the key to it and just look at the elements as it goes through. And it was even more enjoyable the second time that I watched it.
I'm almost
because
afraid.
then you can listen for the little things that you might have missed.
Well, and I'm almost afraid of going into it too analytical and hunting for those things and looking to see if it holds
Well,
up.
that's where I got the clothes from. Yeah. That's where I got those little tiny things like, well, wait a minute, where did the clothes come from?
But just versus it's a perfect little soap bubble of a nightmare. And I'm really, I don't want to necessarily analyze it.
Yeah.
I don't want to necessarily start to look at things like clothes.
I didn't necessarily analyze it, even though I was just looking for the finer details now, this second time that I watched it and saw him. The one thing that I missed right off was him saying how old the painting was of Clara.
Oh, yeah.
And that could have simply just been a line. But if you watch it on the second time through, you see it's flaking off. Yeah. It does indeed look old. The paint, the fresco is coming off of the front of the painting in spots. And so it's those little details that when you see them, you're like, wow, okay. I also didn't hear him. A lot of the
there is a line where he's referring to the skull about his predecessor.
Yeah. Well, there he is. Yeah, he talks about he talks about his predecessors too.
What a great flash to throw it out there and tease us with it when we get that quick edit from the skull to his face or from his face to the skull. I don't remember which way they went. And it's very obviously his cheekbones and the sunken kind of shallow with the long, but didn't. Not until they hit me where they said, this is what it is. I went, oh, those are all him. Oh my God. Do you think maybe he's the one that painted the painting? Like maybe the first run through of the loop, nothing much happened.
That's possible.
He was there and he was trapped there and he couldn't get out. And so he painted it, and he's the one that left the thing there because he was eyeballing the painting as he was doing it, and then he put it down.
See, that's what I try.
Killed him.
That's where I think it gets dangerous because just like him saying, "Well, maybe he ran through it naked." That's what I don't want to do. Is I don't want to
think about it.
I don't want to get too into. Do you think that the first time this happened? Because I think that's where the thread starts to unravel. Yeah. I think that's where it starts to come apart. And the reason being is because he has to get to the death. He has to get to the pull of the thing. And any inconsistency, spending more time there painting only brings the veil to him closer faster. Anytime doing anything in that garden other than digging that hole brings the veil to him. So I think that the problem is when you start.
I think
it's
okay if
you start to analyze when you start to analyze that first element, then you start having to go justify things, which you just did. And I feel like if you start to do that, then there is a chance to unravel it. And part of me thinks I don't want to think too much about that. In fact, when the close comes up, that's why I said I'm a little something minor pedantic when I was talking about the little things that I don't think will be answered, but I wish kind of were. There's a lot more of those, and I'm afraid that if you get too into thinking about that first time and the setup, then it could unravel. So maybe we'll see what he did the first time next week. I don't see them doing
Yeah,
that.
I'm okay with not knowing what he did the
Yeah,
first time.
Yeah,
I
that
think
may be
we're
one of those
better-
mysteries
that's-
that's best left unanswered.
And that's not the point of the story either.
Right.
Nah, I think we're better served just
The point of the story
jumping
is
in the
getting
middle.
out. Yeah.
A little Dark Tower-esque.
Yeah. It was.
I like the idea of the castle too. That was such a cool idea of how different things would make different rooms appear, and it was almost Myst-esque.
Yeah,
Also,
I got that vibe too. Such a great, and once again, I was reminded of the let's take the opening credits nearly and kind of work them into an episode. It felt very much like the castle with the cogs and the wheels and all of the background things that caused it to spin and turn. I mean, it was obviously Time Lord-esque,
yeah.
in their technology, and it just felt like maybe we've been teased with that all season. That this new opening
That
credits
was the first
sequence
thing
is
I
actually,
thought, because when I saw the gears, I didn't think too much about it. But there's a gear shot near to the opening credits, and you see the gears immediately in the opening credits, and I thought, oh wow, nice, nice. There was something else that I wanted to say about this episode, and I can't remember what it was. I like the idea of having to burn up the energy that it would take to restart the teleport is just enough energy that he could exhume before he perished. I thought that was a really, really clever way to, number one, have a reason for him to be able to activate the teleport again, and number two, the reason why he just kind of disintegrates to dust at the end. And when he comes out the second time that we see him come out, and he picks the dust up, and you realize a lot of that's what's left of him there. I think the other little thing that sort of bothered me is not a first time through problem, but when he writes "bird" in the dust, you have to be real careful to wonder why that room doesn't reset that, because they make it very clear to us that the rooms reset when you leave them, or when at least it starts over. And because we see the bloodstains go away, we see, obviously, he even talks about the petals because he comes back. It's when you leave, because when he comes back, or at least when it turns once, because when he comes back, the flower's whole again in that one room that he goes back to. So I kept wondering if him writing the bird thing before he dies doesn't allow, like, is beyond the point of the room reset, it's beyond the point of the room reset. So as
But
he's
isn't it
coming
there when he
in,
comes back in to explore the room?
it is,
When he finds the skull?
it is back there, but that would have been the only time he'd left the room once.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Don't. Okay, stop. Stop, because now I'm going to overthink that. That was the one. That was one thing that popped into my head was how does Bird stay there? Why doesn't it reset? But then again, if this was all the Doctor's device, then he wouldn't have known he was doing. So
I suppose it depends on how long it takes the castle to reset things too.
Yeah, we don't get
Maybe
that real explanation.
maybe there's it won't allow it to reset while there's a person in the room. Obviously,
that was my other.
So,
I'm glad you brought that up. That was my other thought was if there was him, if it's instantaneous that he dies at the same time that he shows up, no one has left that room.
Yeah, right.
But Keith
He
poked
does-
a hole
he
in
does
that
leave and
because
come
then
back.
he does leave and come back later. So,
Unless it's because
although it's self-cleaning,
That's
so
the
that's
status of the
the
room
status
when-
of the room at the time.
when he
so
arrives.
he doesn't. That's what it would reset to if it had to reset. So
I would
anything
think
else
so.
he would have disturbed would have cleaned itself up. But that was already a process of the room when he arrived. Okay,
that's what
that works.
That's how I'm justifying it.
that works.
Because that's also a unique room in the fact that that's where the teleport is, and that's the entrance. And
Now don't go doing that because now you're forcing it. That doesn't work. But what you said earlier works. So
all right,
I'm going with that.
who made the soup?
I'm assuming he did. There was in the one room, looked like a kitchen. It had bread and vegetables, and I think it's the room that he, in the center, is the arrows that point to the passage that the veil goes through to get to the grave. That was the other thing I had to catch the second time.
Okay, I didn't quite understand that.
Yeah, that's because he goes back to that room, and that's how he must go down through that center and come out the side, because he comes out of the side of the grave.
Yeah.
So it must be how he gets into that room. That was the other passage through the room. Because that kind of threw me off, too. I thought, well, he says one entrance in, one entrance out. One way in, one way out. And he goes ahead and digs down, and then the veil comes crashing through the wall of the thing. And I thought, that's weird. So the second time I looked, and that's where the veil goes. He goes into that room, and I'm assuming he must go down through that. That's why he's drawn the arrows, so that he realizes that that's the passageway that's going to come through. So
Didn't catch that.
Yeah,
that threw me for a loop the first time, but second time fixed. But I think it was that room particularly that as they pan up, there's a window, and it might have even been cooking supplies over here, and then there was food laid out. Looked similar to a kitchen to me, so I think he may have gone down there, made it up.
Didn't catch that either. See, now I'm going to have to go back and watch it.
Or maybe the soup's in the room when he gets there, because if he left, then he came back and it reset itself and cleaned it up, the soup would be there again. So
It's a warm soup?
Not knowing... Well, it didn't...
Vichyssoise. It have to be warm.
Not knowing who
His own
established the
personal
whole thing.
hell.
It's hard
Oh, that was another great line where he was talking about, or am I in my own personal hell? And he says, hell doesn't scare me because it's just heaven for bad people. And then he's sitting there eating it. But the question is, how long do I have to be here? And then he drops a spoon. I thought, he's scared of the realization of being there for him. It's not the element of being in hell. It's the fact that it could be an eternity. A lot of infinite and eternal themes in this, I thought. The whole reset, the clockworks, just all of that were all heavy themes of infinity or the infinite. That was so cool. There was an interesting, just as an aside, there was an interesting thing I read in Radio Times when I was scouring the internet for reviews and tips and things you might have missed. And they related a story of... They did pose the question to a scientist of some sort, physicist or something, about how long it would take to burrow through diamond, let alone something 400 times. But they did give the nice anecdote of there is a statue of Winston Churchill in the British Parliament. And MPs would go by, and it was erected in like 1970, I think. And MPs, for good luck, would go by and rub the shoes of Winston Churchill before they went in and made and that was supposedly good luck. Mm-hmm. And it got to, after several years, the shoes, they had to put a sign up saying, don't rub the shoes anymore, because it was actually causing divots in this bronze statue of Winston Churchill. So it was really interesting to put a perspective on something that, hey, this is a real thing that could happen, but putting it on such a small scale. Because again, we're talking about diamonds, and the scientist that they ask ultimately says, I wouldn't want to venture a guess of how long it would take you to get through. Because that is where I think I'm getting 2 billion, because the interviewer asked, could it be done in 2 billion years? And the scientist says, I wouldn't want to venture a guess as to how long it would take to get through something that strong, let alone diamond.
It was nice, too, that he was able to carve out such a nice
square,
a little almost rounded archway to, support the weight above him, and, very engineeringly sound tunnel that he... Surely the doctor still had a phone. He could have called Charles Bronson to come help him. Richard Attenborough, no?
What else?
What happened to all the diamond flecks from the tunnel?
It would have reset?
Okay. Don't pick at the thread. Don't pick at the thread.
Yeah, don't pick at the thread.
Room resets. Cleans it up.
And it's such a small amount. He's not hacking off chunks. It's such a small amount that it's flakes that are so small that you never see.
Yeah. What else? What else? Anything else stands out in anybody's mind?
No.
Can we go back to half human? Yes, please. Yes, please. Yes, please. Yes, please. Yes,
Cross our
please.
fingers and hope.
I'm glad you guys are part of the. I think I mistakenly said 89% don't like that, so that would leave us in the 11%. Am I doing the math here?
Yeah,
that's
right.
why
That's what you said 89.
That's why I'm in my. That's why I'm in the profession I'm in, because I don't have to really do math except for time. But.
Anything to
So you guys are in the 11%.
canonize the movie.
Oh, yeah.
You'd be
I'm on.
perfectly fine with half human, half Time Lord.
Any reason to
Half human on my mother's side.
any reason to legitimize the movie? Of course, I fall into the 1% that don't feel it needs to be legitimized. That it's just fine the way it is. But if it's going to help other people go, oh well, okay, then yeah.
Well,
Take that,
unfortunately,
people.
it won't. What will happen is if that does come true, is there's going to be a lot of angry hooping.
Oh yeah, there's going to be some huge backlash.
But, we'll just ride
I'm
that
a little
wave. We'll ride that wave as we have every other.
I'm a
ship
little worried
jumper.
that Moffat's going to go right up to the line and then go, oh, nope.
I
Not quite.
I suspect
He's going to
He's going
appease
to
all the
duck
fans.
pond it.
Yeah, he's going to duck pond it.
I think everything that we got is everything we're going to get. I really think that that's I'm the hybrid.
No, I think
that's
they're
as
gonna
far as
explore
they're
the
going.
hybrid
No,
more next
I
week,
think that's
but-
as far as he's going to go with it.
No, I disagree. I think he'll go further with it, especially since it's been the heavy theme.
I think I might just back off on the idea that he is the
it's been
hybrid.
heavy theme. Yeah, the hybrid question will be answered for certain.
Or he'll make us think that it's half human and no, he's half something else.
No, I don't think so.
It just wouldn't surprise me if he just backs off at the last second.
I think you got this.
Half Zygon.
How
does that work?
I think you got this bit where we've been teased with it, and he's like, I'm the hybrid. I'm the one destined to destroy Gallifrey. And the following episode is all going to be about destroying Gallifrey. I don't think we're going to really deal with it.
We didn't get
much.
the silence for a full 2 seasons either. So.
Yeah.
I don't see why. I guess I don't understand why he would go and destroy Gallifrey after just discovering it existed.
After saving it the first time.
And then keeping it from coming back to prevent the Time War again.
So now we've destroyed Gallifrey, saved Gallifrey, found Gallifrey in order to destroy Gallifrey.
Yeah, exactly. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I'm in that boat too, Keith. I'm kind of waiting for the turn next week.
Yeah. Because it would also, why wouldn't he just say his name and let the Time Lords come back so the Daleks could destroy him in Time of the Doctor?
Yeah.
Just let that happen again, and then okay, it's done.
Yeah.
Or misread the prophecy could have been.
Ooh. I think the idea that he left because he was afraid. If he left because he was afraid, he would be the one to destroy Gallifrey. I think adds a lot of weight to that.
I think that he left because he's afraid that it would be discovered that he was the hybrid. I think that's ultimately what happened.
And as evidenced in Arc of Infinity this week on Friday Night Who, anytime we get an inkling of something that this might not go in our favor, let's kill him.
Yeah.
That's true.
We're not going to allow this to happen. So I don't know. I like the idea of the Doctor being a little more noble about it, though, that he wasn't necessarily running because he was afraid that they would kill him, that he ran because he was afraid of what he would do.
I don't know that they were... I think... Ultimately, I don't think he ran because he was afraid to kill him. I think they would discover that he was the hybrid. And I think that the idea of that is, I don't think it's necessary that he's afraid that they would kill him, but what unlocking the mystery of the hybrid would unleash something worse than death, I think, is what I think...
That they would use him as something that he wouldn't want to be.
Yeah, or it would unlock a secret that they could use. If they didn't necessarily have to use the Doctor, they could unlock some sort of secret. I think there's more to that. I don't think I don't think he was running because he thought they'd kill him. Because as it's evidenced in the past, they've called him back to help set things right in some instances. And so I don't see that. I don't foresee that being a motive.
No, I just
Well, we'll find out. We're
Yeah,
talking about stuff that's a
gonna
week
happen
away.
next
It's
week.
less than a week away now. So
I also really like the bit where he's in his mind palace and he's like, "Why can't I ever just lose?"
yeah.
That was so great, especially on the heels of everything that's happened this season. Thematically, it fits so well. It was just such a great moment. And then her coming up and, no, you must win.
And ultimately, despite the fact that her death was very, it was a bit of a noble death, but it was still felt like it was missing something.
Yeah.
We're talking about the impossible girl. This is the girl that jumped into his time stream to thwart the great intelligence. That's
save
a
him everywhere.
huge thing.
Yeah.
And save the universe because all the stars were going out. And this is the girl that convinced him that he didn't have to push that button. That he could, it was her. And then suddenly she just dies because of some stupid mistake. Now she went out kind of nobly because she went and accepted and faced death. But it's always kind of stuck in my craw that she just she went out with, after all of these great things that she's done, this is how she ended up dying.
Oh.
So this week, by that memory or whatever you want to call that manifestation in his head, is the one that pushes him to drive on. Then it's
her continuing to save
exactly.
him.
It
Yeah.
fixed that for me. It's her continuing to be his savior, the person that continued. I mean, her little speech I thought was good. There's a lot of people that are upset that she said "arse," but in a kids show. But anyway, her little speech to him, and that's the first and only time she talks to him, because
Yeah.
everything else is done
on the
on the chalkboard, and it's not until he's completely feels defeated and wants to lose for once and wants to run away and wants to give up that she turns and faces him and says what she says, and I don't remember exactly what it was, but it's so impactful I can't remember exactly what she said.
The chalkboard bit was just, I'm so glad we went back to that and got more.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a perfect way within the confines of a mind palace idea to allow Clara to come back.
Yeah.
But just that it's more of the Doctor talking to himself and monologuing and chalkboards in the background.
Theme
And just
from season 8 of the chalkboards.
I don't know. So much good.
What do we got coming up on the schedule, Sean?
I was ill prepared for that question. Next week on Friday Night Who, we are doing The End of Time, parts 1 and 2, which seem very appropriate now. It's almost like we kind of knew something was coming. And then, of course, our reviews in next week's episode 258, Hellbent. And we'll see how bent the Doctor is. There he goes. And, being that this is the penultimate, obviously next week is the finale. This is it. We're done for the whole season until Christmas.
A whole 20 days.
Yeah.
Well, the wait after that's much longer. So
Yeah.
We won't complain about the 20-day wilderness days. We'll complain about the months that are to follow.
The Wilderness December.
And that was the December of our discontent. But, Hellbent next week on the show. And then the following week, we're going to do some second Doctor story with the War Games for Friday Night Who. And
Parts
then
1 through 5.
1 through 5. And then our Fun and Games episode, where we're going to take a look at some new and exciting and some old and exciting and some old and maybe not so exciting games that we will be playing and describing for you on the show. And then we'll finish up the War Games and I forget what the next one is. Oh, we're going back to our spoiler-fulfilled review of Schizoid Earth the following week.
correct.
And the schedule's posted, so there's more information out there on the website.
And of course, be sure to continue to support us on Patreon. We appreciate our Patreon subscribers. And if you can help us out, just throw a few dollars our way. All of that money goes right back into this podcast to continue to do new and wonderful things and sustain the old that keeps us on the internet and keeps us in your iPods and your MP3 players. And also, there are some links on our website that if you feel like you want to get a little more for your buck, you can shop through Amazon.com through our website. We did put a new interface up there. It was called to my attention, which is something I knew, but I had meant to get it fixed. And I think it was Time Lord Ben that called this to our attention. When you look at our website on something like an iPad, because it does not support Flash animation or Flash programming, the Amazon store would simply not show up on there. So we went to explore another option, and there was. And now on the website, you get 4 of the top Doctor Who items. But what we've also discovered is if you search for your items on a search bar on our page,
Right
whether
underneath
it's
those 4 items.
right underneath those 4 items, despite whether it's Doctor Who related or not, if you'll go through that portal to get to Amazon for any of your shopping needs, a percentage of that those proceeds will go to this show in order to help support the show as well. We also have links to Entertainment Earth. They have a lot of great stuff there. All you have to do is click on that link, and that's a click through, and that gives us some support for the show as well.
Click a link.
Click a link, and we do, of course, have the Spreadsheet shirt, which is Spreadshirt Shop. It's a mouthful. We do have the Spreadshirt Shop, in which you can buy the Vortex merchandise. And
The
those
first one was
proceeds-
better. I would really like a shop where I could search for spreadsheets.
Spreadsheet shirts.
Traveling the Vortex sheets?
I'll look into that, Keith.
Some Traveling the Vortex bedding.
I would totally use those.
Well, okay, I'm so going to go look for those so that I can see those on Sean's bed.
And curtains.
Ooh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think it goes that far. Anyway, please
I
support
wanna
us
say, just
there
like the
as
Star
well,
Wars ones,
and
they
you
used to have
can
it match the bedspread.
and you can show your support by wearing the merchandise that says "Traveling in the Vortex" on it. So and get us more listeners so that we can give you more fine content. We can be found on the various forms of social media, which are
Facebook, Twitter, which is at Travel Vortex. We are on Google Plus, and Tumblr, and of course the Goodreads Book Club. And of course, you can send us feedback anytime you want by emailing us at feedback@travelvortex.com. You can send text or audio to that, or you can fill out the form on our website, travelingthevortex.com. Click on the Send Feedback tab and fill out the form, and it will come straight to us.
And I feel like everybody, I don't know, maybe is just a little overwhelmed with the season, or because of the holidays coming up, or life finds a way to intrude on their stuff, because the feedback pipes have been a little quiet the last couple of weeks. And so, if you get the opportunity, drop us a line, because
Especially at the end of the season, let us know what you think of the whole
we're,
thing.
we're certainly interested in sharing other people's opinions as well.
I think people are waiting for contests. They want more contests.
Which we
We
have
seem
some
to
in the
get
works.
feedback when we
We
do
do
contests.
seem to get feedback when we have contests.
All right.
Maybe that's what we'll do our pledge drive on instead of
Contests. All right. Is that going to do it for this week? Until next week, I'm Glenn.
I'm Sean.
I'm Keith.
Cheers.
Good night, everybody.
Be seeing you.
Thanks
Thanks
for
for
listening.
You have been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.